My dad served, but he wasn't in any conflicts, and there's not a lot of it in my family or in my surroundings. So I was really coming into this fresh. And that was actually a bit of a benefit because I didn't have any preconceived notions when I started my research. One of my favorite parts of my job is the research on all the different topics. And because we want to reach the broader public, it was great for me to come into this so fresh and start from scratch and say, and to discover things in my research and bring together a story that I hadn't thought about before, just like I want the public to come to this and discover something new. There's a lot of thought in coin design to what is an obverse and what is a reverse. And some coins, it's very obvious. You have the bust on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. That's the most common way to delineate the front from the back. But in this case, I had to make the front look like the front and the back look like the back in a new way. Because usually the face is on the front. But by having the Purple Heart large enough and featured, and especially with colorization around it, it is a bust like the traditional obverse of a coin. And then the more narrative portion of it is on the reverse, but it was tricky to get that balance between the obverse and the reverse, just in an aesthetic point of view. It's a pretty daunting topic to start with. It's so broad and so emotional that it took a while of contemplating and reading to try to encapsulate such a big topic into a single two-sided coin. And what I was thinking was, what are the common touch points of all of these stories and all of these people that the families and the soldiers and everyone around them through multiple wars and battles. And I came down to the 2 points where the medal itself was the touch point, but also the medical staff, because they were so integrated into this. All the wounded, even those who didn't survive, most of them at some point were in contact with the medical personnel in those conflicts. And they were a crucial part of the story. And I wanted to include them. And of course, in those early years when the medal was first created, a lot of those were very young girls who were coming from middle-class families and dropped into conflict zones right in the danger areas where they were out wearing helmets to protect themselves. And so I did a lot of research to make sure that the uniform, the helmet, everything was accurate. And then telling that story in a aesthetically pleasing way. It's sort of a yin yang with the two characters meeting at that crucial point. And the soldier is clutching his jacket with his hand. So there's a lot of tension there, but then his face, he's really, brave in his face and being cared for. And it's an intimate moment that I think goes across so many years and stories and can be inclusive of not just those wounded, but those who cared for them. I really wanted to focus on the intimacy and the emotion of that personal experience, because war is such a big topic. It's overwhelming to think about the numbers, the statistics of it, and forget that these are individual people that went through this, because we get inundated with and overwhelmed with the enormity of it all. So to focus in on just two characters really brings the emotion home, I think. It's a funny task to put a medal on a medal and to make it look unique rather than just plopping it in the middle of the design. So I was inspired by the texture of the gross grain ribbon that they hang on. And in a coin, when you hold it, not just see a picture of it on your computer, but when you're actually holding it in your hand and the movement of it, light really bounces off that texture. So I wanted to take that, inspired by that texture, and bring it over to the side of the design so that there's movement in. Before this, I was actually on the commission for 8 years. I was a member of the Citizens Coinage Advisory Committee. And the attitude amongst the committee was we were not in favor of colorized coins. We'd seen a few that were done well, but in general, it's very hard to do it and do it well. And so we generally kind of discouraged the Mint from doing that. But this particular project, because it's just a minimal amount of color, it's not overwhelming the design, and it just makes sense with the topic. It's the name Purple Heart is right in the name. And so it was the perfect opportunity to give this a try. And so even though I was vocal against the idea in other projects, I think this is very exciting. It's a unique coloring, and I'm excited to see it in person. I've only seen the mock-ups so far. So I'm really excited to see it in person. And then it was important to have the lettering on there so people, I think some people think that it's only for the wounded, but it's also for those who are deceased as well. And so that was important to include the lettering in there that really spelled it out. I did want to call out the sculptors. It's really a team effort when we make these coins, and this is a commemorative set. There's 3 coins, and my job in this is just as a designer, where I have a background in sculpting as well as designing. And so it's that team effort of handing off the design to the Mint, and then their in-house sculptors take it from there and interpret my marks and make it realize it into a 3-dimensional sculpture, miniature sculpture. And I want to call out the sculptors. I think it was Craig Campbell on the obverse and Eric Custer on the reverse. I hope I got that right. But I was so pleased when I saw it, because I think they really nailed it. They saw exactly the marks that I was putting down on the paper, and they really brought it to life. And I want to applaud them and the Mint for putting this together, and everyone. It's, there's so many people involved in this. And as designers, we do put a lot of time and, thought and pacing back and forth to try to find out how to tell these stories. And then the next part of our job is to step back and let those coins have their own life.